children that you will have, depending on how you're on top of your game, how your wife's going to be on top of her game, how that has an effect on the children. So it's just amazing. To me, it's an amazing concept. Not only your children, we saw the idea of your son-in-law, your future son-in-law, Adam. Everything has its time. We got to think big. You got to think long term, right? In the stock market, I think the people who invested long term did very well, Mr. Abe. Am I correct? Right? People who held on to stocks from 35, 40 years ago, they could be millionaires today if they held on to those stocks. That's what I think. Am I correct in that statement?
I think so.
Okay. So we are on 23B. Um, the last thing we were discussing about the woman, the wife of Rabbi Yosef, the wife of Rabbi Yosef, who when she lit the Neirot for Shabbat, she lit the Neirot extremely close to Shabbat. And the rabbi told her that's not the appropriate way to do it. Now, who was the rabbi that told her? His wife. By the way, it's a very fascinating thing, which you very rarely have in the Gemara. You see that, Mr. Haber, that you have a wife doing something with a husband, a halachic issue, and he actually tells her the drash. He tells her the reason. He doesn't just tell her, you know what, you're not supposed to do it. Don't do that. He didn't just tell her, don't light so close to Shabbat. He actually cited her the source from the pasuk from the Torah, where he understood that pasuk, even though it's also the beauty of Torah, you could have a pasuk which is not talking about candle lighting, because the mitzvah of candle lighting is post the giving of the Torah. There's no Torah mitzvah to light candles in honor of Shabbat. Yet we see the power of lighting candles, what it could do for the children, and so on. And he's able to see from the pasuk how to act regarding the Shabbat candles. What was the story? So the Gemara says we're on 23b. If you want to send to the group, Adam, I give you permission. 23b 2. So we have the bityu to Rabbi Yosef Havet Ma'achra Madlaket La. The wife of Rabbi Yosef, she intentionally waited to light the candles late, right before Shabbat. Not that she was behind her game, behind in her responsibilities, and therefore she lit late. No, she was running late, that expression. It wasn't that she was running late, it was with intention. Because she wanted that it should be so recognizable that these lights that I'm lighting are for what purpose? For the kavod Shabbat. They're for the honor of Shabbat. And how do I show that they're for the honor of Shabbat if I light them right before Shabbat? And I'm going to share with you an interesting halacha. Mr. Haber, you know the name Rabbi London, my father-in-law. You know my brother-in-law, Rabbi London, from the Nefesh Academy. And then there's my father-in-law of Mesmer, who was a legend. My father-in-law is credited with the first Baal Tshuva yeshiva in the world. In the world, that's a big statement. 1943, Mr. Haber, I think. That's a little over 80 years ago. He did not call them Balei Tshuva. He didn't call them Balei Tshuva. He called them late starters. They started late. He didn't give them the name Balei Tshuva. And he felt that my students are the best. They could get into any yeshiva, any Beit Midrash in the world. From Lakewood, Torah V'Daas, all the big name yeshivas. where were they born? I think they were born was probably maybe in Williamsburg. They were born about 100 years ago. Over 100, they're 100. They were very young, over 100 years ago. They were very young when they started the yeshiva. Their rabbi of influence was the Chafetz Chaim's nephew, Rabbi Leibowitz, who founded the Chafetz Chaim Yeshiva. The famous today, the yeshiva, the Chafetz Chaim network of yeshivot. That was their rabbi. And up in London, in his home, when did they bring out the fish? When do they bring the fish out? Let's say Friday night and even Shabbat day. When do you bring the fish to the table? They would bring the fish after Kiddush, not before Kiddush. And we saw there's a Tosfot in Psachim, where you want to show that the food that's here was brought for the honor of Shabbat. So if the fish is already the fact that after Kiddush you bring the fish, it's Shabbat, and now you bring in the fish. So you're bringing in honor of Shabbat, not that the fish is there from before, maybe nothing to do with Shabbat. So here the idea is, she wanted to show that she's lighting, that the lights that I'm putting on now is for Shabbat. It's not that I have lights on because I want to see in the house earlier. And I lit it just to have it around the house, not specifically for Shabbat, just to have light of some sort. But the fact that I'm doing it right close to Shabbat, good morning, Asaf. That was her intention. But her husband tells her. So Amar Rabbi Yosef says to her, Tanya, we learned in the Braita. Lo yamish amud ha'anan yomam v'amud ha'esh layla. The pasuk says that there was a cloud that was in front of the Jewish people when they traveled by day, and there was a cloud of fire that was in front of the Jewish people at night for them to travel. And this pasuk seems to be superfluous. The earlier pasuk says Hashem went in front of them by day. Hashem, God, was a GPS that he went in this cloud by day to show them the way. The cloud moves. That's how the Jews know it's time to move. When the cloud stopped, they knew it's time to stop. And the pasuk says, at night Hashem used the cloud, the fire. And so what you already told me that there was clouds in the daytime and there was a cloud of fire at night. So why do you need to tell me that the cloud of the day didn't leave and the cloud of the night didn't leave? There was always a cloud by day for the people, always a cloud at night for the people. You already told me that. Malamed, what's the pasuk telling you? That you know what? That lo yomish amud anan, that the cloud that was there by daytime for the Jewish people, to show them about where they go, they're traveling, to go, not to go. That cloud was there, and by the time that the night fire, the cloud of fire at night came, while that cloud was still there. Even though the main function of the fire, the cloud of fire at night, was for the night purpose, but it didn't just come right at night, when nightfall began. It came actually earlier, a little earlier. So there was that overlap. Good morning, Akiva. Akiva, everything should go well. So that is and it's like, let's say you have a guard. You have a 24-hour guard. And this guard in the security works day shift, and this guard works night shift. So the night guard comes not just right when the night begins, he checks in already earlier. That's what was happening by the fire. The cloud of fire already came already before the day shift was over. That's what the pasuk is teaching us. That the cloud of the day was was completed, that there already was the cloud of fire already came. Similarly, in the morning, the cloud of the morning came when it was still dark. It's right before dawn, right before the morning. And from here we can learn that that is the right way to go. The right way to go is you come a little earlier before the time that you're supposed to arrive. Now, that's a beautiful lesson when it comes to minyan, right? Minyan starts at a certain time. You have to be at well, you have a meeting to go to, right? So I think the people who come a few minutes early to a meeting, they arrive at their appointment, they have a doctor's appointment. You have to, right? That is the way to go. The way to go is don't just to walk in on the button. Adam, that what the Gemara seems to be saying to us? That is, and the Torah is teaching us, and we know that is, when you have a certain time to come, you come a little early, that generally will guarantee you'll always be on time. But the person who's trying if you go just to the being on time, then there's a good chance you're not going to be on time. Always chance people run a little late. So that is and therefore that's what Rabbi Yosef was trying to say to his wife, that that's how she should act. Meaning to say to her that even if you would light a little earlier, you wouldn't light so close to Shabbat, a few minutes before Shabbat, that's a more appropriate thing. Meaning there's something also called too close. Okay, I made it, I'm a minute early. That's not, from this Gemara, that's not sufficient. It should be something of more 5 minutes or 10 minutes or something. Again, we're going to light the candles 18 minutes before. I'm not saying you have to come arrive 18 minutes before a meeting or something. But the concept that it shouldn't be so close, you just made it. So once her husband told her, by the way, it's a beautiful Gemara to share, right? With people in public, at a Shabbat table or anywhere. It's like,
maybe that's the issue that the guy on the Lower East Side had with Moshe Feinstein taking the car at the last minute. It was like, I know you're going to make it, but you're cutting it close.
Right, but his issue was more that it doesn't look. It's right. After candle lighting, right? But it's an interesting point what you're saying. Right, something to think about. Right. It's interesting what you're saying is that Moshe didn't feel. Moshe felt he could do that trip 5 times and still be a couple minutes before Tosfot Shabbat, and still be 2 minutes before the additional time. Mm-hmm. So with the additional built in, so I got 5 trips, and I got 2 minutes, and I'll have 2 minutes afterwards of additional time. But that's a very good point. That's a beautiful point. What you're saying also regarding Shabbat, people shouldn't be doing things up to that last moment. We have this. This is what the Torah is teaching us this lesson. This is how he understood. He understood that the lesson of the Torah, and he's applying it to his wife with the Shabbat candles. And you know what? She's a good wife. She takes to heart what her husband says. What does she do? She goes ahead and she goes very early on the lighting of the candles, right? So let's take a look on the commentary. So what does she do? She said, you know what? Therefore, I have to light the candles a large amount of time, a significant amount of time before Shabbat, very early. And he told then Amaluhu Hahu Sabah. There was an elderly gentleman. Toso says in Chulin, wherever the Gemara says the Sabah, right? Sabah. Who's the old Sabah? Is the grandpa, right? Who's the Sabah? So either it's an elderly rabbi or it's Eliyahu, a Navi. Eliyahu Navi comes to her and says, Tanina, we learned, Ubavad shuliyakdim shuliyacher. You should not go do it too early. You shouldn't light it so late in the game, so to speak, in the day. But if you light it too early, it's not so recognizable that you lit it for the purpose of Shabbat. It's not so recognizable. Now, meaning if you go light a candles this afternoon, if you light the candles at 5 o'clock, it doesn't look like it's for Shabbat. Shabbat, there's too much of a distance between 5 o'clock and Shabbat. Now, what is the appropriate time? What is the appropriate time to light the candles, right? So we said that 18 minutes is the appropriate time, but of course you could do more than 18 minutes. Like I said, in Yerushalayim they do 45 minutes, but what's called too early? What is called too early? There is a time that you can't. It seems to me I'm under the impression before Plaga Mincha, a day is split into 12 parts, 10 hours and 45 minutes in a day. Plaga Mincha today is about, I'm guessing, 6:55. We have to look up on the calendar. And really light and candle lighting, the official candle lighting time is around 8:05, I'm guessing. And I'm giving a little guess. You know what I'm saying? We'll have the announcement later of this morning by Sammy. But so really, let's say the official time is 8:05. You could do an hour before today, let's say. In the winter months, where the day is much shorter, candlelight, like the Hanukkah time, candlelighting could be, the official time is around 4:09, like when it gets very early, right? For Hanukkah time. And there, I think Plaga Mincha is like around 3:35, 3:36, 3:37. You wouldn't be able to light before that time, the Shabbat candles. So here it says, look in the Ayin Shulchan Aruch, Simin Reish Samach Gimel, Siftas. I'm taking out the Shulchan Aruch. Now let's see what the Shulchan Aruch has to say. Reish Samach Gimel, Sif Dalet. He says like this. Lo yakdim, don't go too early. It's based on our Gemara. How do you like that, right? Don't go too early. Don't light too early while the day is still, a large part of the day is still here, because it's not recognizable that you're lighting it for the honor of Shabbat. And also don't delay. Meaning don't light so close to Shabbat, because we're afraid that maybe you're going to miss the time. Okay. So that is something, and then he says, if you want to light while it's still, a nice amount left of the day, and you want to accept the Shabbat, you're allowed to. Since you makabel the Shabbat, and since you're accepting the Shabbat, as long as it's from Plag HaMincha and onwards. If you're accepting Shabbat and you're lighting after, like I spoke about that Plag HaMincha time, which is an hour and a quarter before the evening. So we have to see more about this, but that's the basic halacha in Shulchan Aruch. If you want to light Shabbat candles and accept Shabbat, it has to be from that. That's called the Plag HaMincha time. We don't really accept Shabbat at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. Let's make Shabbat. You ever hear anyone make on the summer months? You ever hear a 5 o'clock in the afternoon? No, we don't have such a thing because it's the Plag HaMincha. That's like most of the davenings are around, 7 o'clock or six. You have a 6:45 minyan, because then for mincha, and then you have Kabbalah Shabbat, and when you reach, the Baruch Hu or Mitzvah Shel Yom Shabbat, it's already past that Plag HaMincha. Mr. Haber, what is the common time that they daven and deal? Do you remember? It's like 6:45, 7 o'clock. I presume they do mincha in the summer at 6:45. I presume, or 6:30 in the for Shabbat or whatever. So that's why it's that time of the day. Wouldn't it be nice to still have Shabbat at 6 o'clock, at 5:30? Let's have a 5:30 Shabbat today. It's too early. I can't do it. It's too early. There's something called too early, because that's based on this concept. It would seem that, it has to be closer to the Shabbat. That's, in order to be able to go ahead and accept the Shabbat. So closer to the Shabbat would be, once you get to Plag HaMincha already, but some say consider the Plag HaMincha, then already you're good. And if you accept Shabbat before that time, it's not an acceptance. It's not a Shabbat. It's not. You can't just accept Shabbat so early. Okay. So that's something. Okay. You should know the Aruch HaShulchan was a big advocate that people he wanted that everybody should make early Shabbat. He did not want people to start Shabbat, to make Shabbat right before sunset, to light 18 minutes before sunset, and daven Ma'ariv at dark. He didn't want it. Why doesn't he want people daven Ma'ariv at dark? Because there were a lot of women and uneducated Jews that thought that until they daven Ma'ariv Arvit, Shabbat is not here. If you're going to daven if they don't daven Ma'ariv Arvit, it's not Shabbat. And therefore, they would light candles after sunset. Because my husband didn't daven Arvit yet. He didn't daven Ma'ariv yet, so it's not night. It's not night. Morning, Levi. It's not night. So therefore, I could go in and light the candles. So they were doing this terrible thing. So he said, you know what we got to do? We got to all make early Shabbat. The husband is already davening earlier, Arvit by early Shabbat, right? Early Shabbat. It's in the lower east side. They have the Bialystok Shul. There's different minyanim in the neighborhood, but they have two. Bialystok Shul has two minyanim. One, let's say around 6:40 tonight, 6:40, and they'll have the second minyan at 8:10. Right? So I'll have the second minyan around 8:10. That's the regular time for the candle lighting. So Aruch HaShulchan would say he wouldn't be a proponent so much of that 8:10 minyan, that second minyan, because by the time you're finishing mincha, it's already sunset around. And you didn't have a Ma'ariv yet, and the women think you can still do. The women in Europe, a lot of them made a mistake. Therefore, he said you got to make early Shabbat. Very strong about it. When he was invited. It's a famous, beautiful story that I like to share. When he came to the town as a new rabbi, he says, we're going to be making early Shabbat here. That's one of the things that, as a rabbi, in people's presidency, we have certain things that they want to inaugurate and start. I want to have early Shabbat in town. So he makes an announcement. We're going to be having early Shabbat next week or whatever it is. He comes to the synagogue and nobody shows up. Nobody shows up. And what does he do? Nobody shows up. He calls, maybe he calls together some of the yeshiva boys and he says, we have to come make a minyan. We need an early Shabbat. And by the time he finishes his minyan, the regular minyan came to shul, the later minyan, Friday night. He wasn't happy, obviously, about that. The next week he says, we're also having a early minyan. There's only one minyan. We know that person, someone says there's only one minyan, right? You know about that? There's only one, Sammy likes a joke. There's only one minyan, the seventh minyan. No, that's his joke. But we're having early minyan. The same thing happened. Nobody showed up. Very few people. Let's say he made it again, maybe pulled the yeshiva boys, whatever, made the minyan. But this time he did not go home. The rabbi didn't go home. Or Hashlucha didn't go home. He waited. He stayed in shul. When the people came to shul, he said, there is no second minyan. There's no other minyan. You lost it. So he fought for that importance of making early Shabbat. Because the nature of people also, independent of his concern, the nature of people, when you go up to the wire, the possibility you get delayed. Possibility. Who was telling me about, I was speaking to a member of the community here, and he was saying about people who do work up to whatever it is, do malacha, whatever type of work, who don't accept Shabbat early, they fall. Sometimes they would fall, and they would not be lighting on the right time. Possibly they're in danger of lighting after sunset, or they're in the gym until after sunset, possibly in danger, or whatever. We're talking about people, some people who are not strong in their commitment. They're not there yet. Thank God, one of those two people I just mentioned is there already, got there already. Thank God, has grown a lot. But people who are not everybody is in the level of inspiration and God fearing. And when you're dealing with a community, you have all different types of Jews. So if the community has the minyan is early, so those people they want to be at the minyan. So that's why I love Shabbat Yeshiva when it's in the summer. You make early Shabbat. If a guy runs late, okay, it's still before sunset. You know what I'm saying? That's the best time of the year, in my opinion. Okay, so let's continue in the Gemara. But I wonder, according to the opinion that says that it was Eliyahu Hanavi that came to her, right, and told her, by the way, you shouldn't do this so early. That not everybody merits getting Eliyahu Hanavi coming to them. Why should she get Eliyahu Hanavi to come? Perhaps, maybe because of the way she was diligent and the way she responded to her husband. Because when her husband said you got to do it earlier, and she really went to full, she really did it very early with the great intentions. So she deserved that Eliyahu Hanavi should come to her and to tell her, that's not you're doing it too early. Omar Rava says the Rachim Rabbanim, somebody who loves Torah scholars, right? Mr. Haber, there are some people in the community that loves they love the rabbis. You know what happened to those people? That many of their children became Torah scholars. And if it wasn't their children, maybe if I could add my own thought, we say B'nei Banim Hari Banim. Grandchildren are like children. Aren't there so many of the people in the community that today their children or grandchildren, they themselves were not Torah scholars, but they loved the rabbis, right? And Hashem repaid them because they loved the rabbis. You hear about names in the community that were known for business, and now you have children, grandchildren that are rabbis. Somebody told me a certain neighborhood, uh, you know, there's a certain very big businessman. He supports his son as the rabbi of the shul. He made a shul for his son, supports his son as the rabbi. How did it happen that he has a son that's a rabbi and let's say he's just businessman, It happens that one way it happens is because he loved the rabbis. And Hashem repaid him by having a child that's a rabbi. But again, I want to just also say, Talmud Chacham does not mean rabbi specifically of a rabbi of a shul. You could have a child who's a Torah scholar, who's learned. He could be also a businessman or some other profession as well. It's maybe in a certain sense, it's not as common that people are Torah scholars when they are doing other professions, but there are many that are. There are many people that are Torah scholars that are professionals. They put in the time and they put in the effort day in, day out. They become a Torah scholar, right? People, right? You see a guy like Jack Dweck, right? Who teaches a class, the young guy. If he keeps it up, he's going to keep it up, he'll become a Torah scholar. He'll be professional, but he'll be a Torah scholar. He's teaching Gemara, right? And he's going to become, and the more he will teach on a regular basis, and the more he will learn, how do you become a Torah scholar? Is it a snap of a finger? Adam could be a Torah scholar. It could be it. How did you become a lawyer? You became a lawyer because you woke up one day, I'm a lawyer. You put in time, you sweat. You worked on it. That's not right, Mr. Haber. How did the person become a Torah scholar? The toil in the Torah, right? Exactly. Being a Torah scholar is a responsibility. Everyone should try to be a Torah scholar. And it's not a contradiction to whatever profession you're in. People put their time. Some people are putting their time into sports, watching sports, and some people are putting their time into other things. Some people have to put their time into Torah. So the Rachim Rabbanan, someone who is merciful, loves the rabbis, Havil Benin Rabbanan. He will have children that would be Torah scholars. And the way with Rashi, because if you love Torah scholars as if they're your children, right? You love them. People love their children. It's natural. You love your child. So if you treat your Torah scholar the way you treat your children, that you love them, so you will have children that will be Torah scholars. The Mokira Banan, someone who Mokir, some say Mokira Banan means that you go ahead and Mokir means you have respect for the rabbis. If you have respect for the rabbis, Havile Chatnavuta Rabbanan, you will have son-in-laws that will be Torah scholars, and which is also a great honor. So you honor the rabbis, so Hashem will honor you that you'll have son-in-laws that will be Torah scholars. And the Dochil Rabbanan, if you have a certain awe and reverence of the rabbis, so then Hu Gufei have a Rabbanan. You yourself will become a Torah scholar because you have that reverence, awe of the rabbis. That the Maral explains when he says, okay, he has an interesting idea that someone who's afraid of someone else is like negating myself to this, like I'm nothing compared to you because I'm afraid of you. So I'm like, I'm like, I I negate myself as if I don't, as if I am not, I am totally subjugated or loyal, or I don't have any, I'm just, I'm in awe of you. So I become like just, you know, I nullify myself to you. If I nullify myself to you and you're a Torah scholar, so I will become a Torah scholar. I'm you, I become you. That's in a more deeper sense, but in a more simple sense, is that the fact that you have fear of the reverence of the Torah scholar. So Hashem is going the way he says, see, the way they say over here is there are different levels of, let me read it. He says, fear is greater than honor, because honor is only in front of the person. I honor you. Fear is whether in front of the person and not in front of the person. Therefore, the reward is greater. So if your reward is greater, so therefore that's why you yourself will become a Torah scholar. It's greater reward that you become a Torah scholar than necessarily your child becomes a Torah scholar. That's what Yonasan Lanil wants to say. And I think so okay, we should all be Zochet, we should all be Zochet to be Torah scholars. And in addition to whatever else we're doing, Akiva, how are you doing? What's going on? What was happening? I saw a picture. You showed a picture of yourself. Are you still there? What was that oxygen that you had? I don't know. Akiva showed a picture of himself. I don't know what the story. He's still on. Maybe his phone is on. Okay, take a check up on Akiva afterwards.